stay at Ankyu's house, all my secrets will be exposed. Though he didn't want to, Li Sufang reluctantly accepted his explanation. Before hanging up, she reminded him, "Remember to visit Ankyu's parents. They're very worried about you." From his memory, Chen Mo knew that meeting Ankyu's mother was talkative and annoying, but Anduk, her father, had always been kind to him. Thinking back, he felt he should visit them to show his gratitude. The next morning, at the western suburbs, Chen Mo rang the doorbell at Ankyu's house, and it was Ankyu who opened the door. She wasn't very excited to see him. Chen Mo looked at her coldly without saying anything. From inside, Meeting called from the kitchen, saying that lunch would be ready soon. Chen Mo's arrogant attitude and indifference toward her mother made Ankyu even more irritated. No matter how much he had changed to her, Chen Mo was still far inferior to Zheng Yuanhao. A while later, Anduk, her uncle, appeared. When he saw Chen Mo, he politely stood up and greeted him, which surprised Ankyu. He acted completely differently when facing her father, in stark contrast to his behavior with her and her mother. After everyone sat at the dining table, Meeting quickly brought up the topic of Chen Mo moving out. "I heard you rented a place on your own. What's going on?" It was only then that Anduk learned the news. Despite his advice, Chen Mo stood firm in his decision and didn't want to discuss it further. Ankyu couldn't hold back anymore and criticized Chen Mo's attitude toward her. Meeting tried to calm things down, hoping to improve the relationship between the two. Suddenly, the phone rang. After answering, Ankyu announced that Yang Kai had arrived. They had planned to go to a classmate's birthday party. Initially, the plan was to go to a cafe, but it had now changed to a camping trip with karaoke. Meeting suggested that Chen Mo should go with them to ease her worries. Though he didn't want to, Chen Mo reluctantly agreed to avoid raising suspicions. When Chen Mo arrived, Yang Kai was surprised to see him. Ankyu quickly explained that he was her father's son and had come to learn more. Chen Mo knew these people well. Yang Kai was rich, arrogant, and often made things difficult for others, especially for Chen Mo in his past life. Yan Moram, on the other hand, appeared cold but was actually kind-hearted. After graduation, he hadn't heard anything about her. If Ankyu hadn't been there, Chen Mo would have felt much more at ease, avoiding dealing with these young people. Upon seeing Chen Mo, one young man couldn't hide his contempt. He had heard rumors that Chen Mo had skipped the exam just to attract attention. Chen Mo was surprised that the rumors had spread so quickly from Class 2 to Class 6. Clearly, someone was trying to make a fool of him. One of the others whispered, "This guy doesn't deserve Ankyu. Why doesn't he look in the mirror and take a good look at himself?" Yang Kai didn't defend him, but added a few sarcastic remarks, saying, "Only Zheng Yuanhao deserves her. A useless guy like him should stay away so he doesn't bring bad luck." Upon hearing this, Chen Mo stepped forward with a cold look, scanning the group. "You dare talk to me like that?" He added in a challenging tone, "Do you even deserve to talk to me?" Chen Mo spoke up. Yang Kai immediately rushed to Zhang Nian to provoke him. Zhang Nian, who had his girlfriend with him, was urged to make Chen Mo apologize, or he wouldn't let it go. In response, Chen Mo sneered, "A punk like you dares to act tough with me." He coldly ordered, "Kneel down and apologize right now, or don't expect to keep your life." His words hit Zhang Nian like a thunderclap, sending him into a fury. He decided to teach Chen Mo a lesson to show him some respect. Seeing the situation getting tense, Ankyu stepped forward to intervene. She said to Chen Mo, "Be a little humble with your small frame, just one punch and you'll go down." But Chen Mo ignored her, simply turning to smile at Yan Moran, which puzzled her. His gaze made it seem like they had known each other for a long time. With Ankyu's persuasion, Zhang Hian temporarily backed off, but he didn't forget to make a biting remark. "The car is crowded, you should go by yourself." The others also refused to let Chen Mo get in their car, clearly agreeing with Zhang Nian. Even though Ankyu tried to stop them, Yan Morong insisted on letting Chen Mo ride with her. When Yang Kai questioned her, she replied softly, "We are all classmates. We shouldn't embarrass Chen Mo." Yang Kai reluctantly agreed and arranged for Chen Mo to sit in the car behind. The convoy quickly set off, blending into the trip. Despite the laughter and cheering from the group of friends, Chen Mo sat silently, showing no interest in the lively atmosphere. As the car entered the Thangyang tunnel, the girl beside him became annoyed by the slow car in front. She repeatedly honked the horn, signaling for the car ahead to move, but losing patience, Thangyang accelerated and accidentally hit the rear of the car in front, causing both cars to slam on their brakes. Stepping out of the car, Thangyang was upset about his car and kept cursing the driver. "How are you driving? Are you trying to die?" On the other side, a tall man got out of his car to assess the situation, then went back to report to the person inside. "A kid crashed into my car and is now yelling at me." Upon hearing himself being called a kid, Thangyang became furious and yelled back. The man inside the car calmly ordered the driver, "Get in the car. Don't waste time with these people." Before leaving, the driver even gave Thangyang a side glance, which only made Thangyang even angrier. "You're going to pay for this before you leave." A moment later, Jang Yian also arrived. Thangyang seized this opportunity to falsely accuse the driver of suddenly slamming on the brakes, which caused him to be unable to avoid the collision. Upon hearing this, Jang Yian immediately ordered his friends to surround the opposing car. Inside the car, the man remained calm, exhaling smoke from his cigarette and speaking sarcastically, "I didn't expect Chomune to be stopped by these kids." Understanding the hint, the driver quickly opened the car door. As soon as the man stepped out, Jang Yian was startled. Once he recognized who it was, his face turned pale with fear. He realized he had bumped into a gangster boss. Jang Yian bowed his head, nervously asking, "Do you know who Jang Kwai, my dad, is?" Chomune smirked, "I know him," and waved his hand, saying, "Out of respect for your father, you may leave." Jang Yian quickly bowed in thanks, and then turned to urge Thangyang to apologize to Chomune. However, Chomune sternly cut him off. "I'm letting you go, but not the other guy." Jang Yian tried to beg for his friend as well, but it was too late. Chomune ordered the driver to call for backup. He even dared Jang Yian to ask his father if he could get away with letting someone go. Hearing this, Jang Yian realized the situation was beyond his control. Chomune was not someone to be trifled with. He was an untouchable kingpin, someone everyone had to respect. His power made him treat everyone like garbage. After a moment of pleading, Chomune was not completely heartless. He only demanded that An Kyu and Yan Muram have a drink with him to pass the time, and he would let everyone else go free. At that moment, Chomune's henchmen arrived, creating an intimidating atmosphere as if they were ready to devour Jang Hian's group. Thangyang, scared, knelt and begged for mercy, offering to pay any compensation to be spared. Chomune replied nonchalantly, "1 minute of my time is worth 3 billion. And that's how much I'd lost since I was interrupted." In desperation, Thangyang turned to Jang Yian for help, but only received silence. Not wanting to argue any further, Chomune ordered his men to capture Thangyang, while An Kyu and Yan Muram were told to get in the car. The rest were to be beaten to remember the experience. Facing this danger, the young men with Jang Yian lost all their courage and didn't dare to resist. Just then, Chen Mo stepped forward and blocked the path of Chomune's henchmen. With a calm gaze, he declared, "I will protect these 2 girls." Seeing this, Chomune raised an eyebrow and asked, "Who do you think you are?" Chen Mo smiled confidently, "Someone you can't touch." Upon hearing this, Chomune burst into laughter. "This kid really has guts." Behind him, An Kyu scoffed, thinking that Chen Mo was just posturing. But Yan Murong was different. Her eyes never left him, curious to see what Chen Mo would do next. Chomune thought Chen Mo's words were a joke and asked again. Chen Mo still maintained his attitude. "Are you deaf? Didn't you hear me?" These words made Jang Yian and his friends break into a cold sweat. They only had one thought in their minds. This guy must be tired of living. Chomune narrowed his eyes and ordered his men to deal with Chen Mo. 2 henchmen immediately rushed forward, but before they could touch Chen Mo, both were sent flying like lightweight dolls with a slap. Seeing this, Chomune furiously yelled, "All of you attack!" Dozens of henchmen surrounded Chen Mo from all directions. Yet, he stood there calmly as if nothing was happening. The moment they charged, Chen Mo moved like lightning, delivering powerful blows that sent all the thugs crashing to the ground in an instant. Chomuna couldn't believe his eyes. His henchmen were no amateurs, yet in less than a minute, they were all defeated by Chen Mo without mercy. Behind, Jang Hyun and his friends were also dumbfounded, unable to believe that Chen Mo, someone they had once looked down on, was so powerful that he could single-handedly take on a group of thugs. Although most of the hooligans were already lying on the ground, Chomuna's driver still stood firm in front of Chen Mo. He was the person Chomuna trusted the most and had been given clear instructions to only incapacitate Chen Mo. The driver silently approached Chen Mo, sure that the boy would regret confronting him. Chen Mo coldly asked, "Are you done talking?" His words infuriated the driver, who immediately unleashed his martial arts power, which made Chomuna pleased as he realized his subordinate had improved. The driver leaped forward, delivering his most powerful punch at Chen Mo. But what stunned everyone was that Chen Mo remained still, while the driver spat blood and was sent flying backward. Chomuna couldn't believe his eyes. This was the person he had paid a large sum to recruit, yet he had been defeated so easily. Jang Nyan, who had thought he could teach Chen Mo a lesson, stood frozen in shock, too terrified to say anything. Ang Yu was also surprised by Chen Mo's strength, thinking that this must be his trump card, but she still believed that money and resources were more important, and compared to Zhen Yuanhao, Chen Mo was still inferior. In contrast, Yan Murong admired Chen Mo, believing that only someone like him could resist violence and eliminate enemies before they could strike. Suddenly, Chen Mo's phone rang. Chomuna shrugged and gestured for him to take the call, giving Chen Mo the chance to have the last word. The caller was Kim Pei-yun, who informed him that the medicinal herbs for refining pills were ready and asked when he could come to treat the illness. Chen Mo replied that he was free at the moment, but would be busy in about an hour and a half. Hearing this, Kim Pei-yun guessed that Chen Mo was in trouble and offered to help. Chen Mo explained the situation, mentioning that a man named Chomune was threatening him with a gun, and that he needed to deal with him before he could go. After that, Chen Mo handed the phone to Chomuna, making him curious about who the student could be in contact with. As soon as Chomuna answered, he heard a stern voice from the other side, scolding him for daring to touch Kim Jong-un's guest. Chomuna asked in disbelief for confirmation, only to receive Kim Pei-yun's furious voice, emphasizing that the person in front of him was none other than Chen Mo, a special guest of her grandfather. She also mentioned that even she wouldn't dare speak harshly to him. Hearing this, Chomuna turned pale and trembled, no longer daring to say another word. When Chen Mo spoke, Chomuna immediately bowed his head and apologized, pleading for forgiveness. Thanks to Kim Pei-yun's words, Chen Mo reluctantly spared him, telling him not to act so obnoxiously again. Everyone around them was stunned. With just one phone call, Chomuna, a powerful figure, was forced to bow before a high school student. It was truly unbelievable. Jang Haiyan, confused and anxious, couldn't understand what was happening. Afterward, Chen Mo told him to leave first because he had other matters to attend to. Hearing this, Jang Hyun and his friends, as if they had won a prize, rushed into the car and quickly drove off, fearing that staying any longer might bring danger. Later, at Kim Jong-un's house, he greeted Chen Mo with the utmost respect. As usual, Kim Pei-yun also changed her attitude compared to their first meeting. Upon entering, Chen Mo noticed the pile of medicinal herbs on the table and was pleased with both the quantity and quality, which exceeded his expectations. Kim Pei-yun mentioned the preparation of the pill refining furnace, but Chen Mo said it wasn't necessary, as refining pills didn't require such tools. This statement surprised Kim Pei-yun, as she believed that the better the furnace, the more effective the pills would be. Chen Mo chuckled and explained that for him, refining pills didn't need a furnace. A true cultivator could refine pills with bare hands. He then set up a spirit-gathering formation, causing the medicinal herbs to float in the air and combine. In the blink of an eye, countless golden pills appeared. Chen Mo continued to draw a runic symbol in the air, integrating it with the pills,